Fayetteville Volleyball coach Jessica Phelan joining us to talk about stepping down from the program after 22 seasons and what's next for her. It is Tuesday, January 27th, and this is Varsity 5 Today. Welcome into Varsity Vibe today on this Tuesday. I'm your host, Alyssa Orange. It's really great to be with you. And before we get into my conversation with Jessica Phelan, a lot of schools are still closed on Tuesday, which means there will be no basketball action. Those games are going to get rescheduled, so pay close attention to that. Hopefully on Wednesday, schools will open back up, but we're just going to have to wait and see. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. Keep an eye out for that information to come. Now, after 22 seasons at Fayetteville High School, Jessica Phelan is stepping down as the head volleyball coach for the Bulldogs. In those years, she won 541 matches and 8 state championships. She has made the volleyball program one of the most successful in the state of Arkansas as the sport itself continues to grow. She's coached Gatorade Players of the Year, players who have gone on to be All-Americans, and even her daughter Kennedy, who is now at the University of Illinois. Her impact goes way beyond the volleyball court, and she knows that the program will continue to trend in that direction.
I think it's obviously something that it didn't come to overnight. So it's a little bittersweet, telling the girls and that kind of thing. But that being said, I feel like it is the right time for me, right time for the program too. They're in like really good shape to continue to be successful. So so there's, I don't know, like contemplative. I don't know that you're like excited is not the right word. I think more than maybe just content with like what I've built and, whatever the next phase of life is for me. So
taking you back, do you remember the day that you were hired and it all started?
Ironically, I do remember Coach Johnson calling me and offering me the job. And ironically, I feel like I said, yeah, I'm excited to accept the job, but I need to let you know that I'm pregnant and I'm going to be on maternity leave, like right when the season's over for the next, few months, because I was pregnant with my daughter Kennedy at the time. So I do remember that conversation and him saying, well, we love kids and your kids are, always going to be welcome and that kind of thing. And, that has proved true. My, Fayetteville schools and have been so good to my children. And, they grew up elementary to junior high through high school. And, as cliche as it sounds, it takes a village. I feel like there's been a village around my kids that have been real supportive. And it's been now that they're all out of the Fayetteville public schools, there's a gratitude there that started initially. Yeah.
How cool is it that you were pregnant with Kennedy and, 18 years later.
Years later, little would we all know.
Made her own mark on your program.
Yeah, for sure. She certainly, all my kids, kind of grew up around the game and the gym and the tennis courts and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Right. When you did take over and you had an idea of what you wanted to do with the program, how important was it for you to kind of have a blueprint on a direction and a really stable foundation that has ultimately led it to where it is right now?
I'd have to credit that blueprint to my own high school coach. I grew up in Herman, Missouri. They have won more state championships than any other program in the state of Missouri. And my high school coach, Linda Lampkin, she's certainly a legend in Missouri high school volleyball. And she last year was inducted into the National Federation of High School Coaches Hall of Fame. Like she, so in terms of blueprint, I feel like this idea that once you get it rolling, that tradition can just continue to build on itself. And, so I had like a little blueprint in my mind, having grown up in a successful program, and know that it just takes what it takes more than anything else. There's not really any magic sauce to it other than you got to, keep working. And so grateful for all the kids, that got that ball rolling early and just kept working. And, then it, kind of cycles into this is just not how we do things here, and the kids start to, take ownership of their success. And so I feel like, really grateful to have had that foundation as a player about high school volleyball. So
When you look at you as a coach, you talk about your high school coach, and then you played for Coach Poole at Arkansas. How much did you take from them from a coaching standpoint, and to then realizing that like you molded it into who you wanted to be?
Oh, 100%. I think that, my experiences as a player, certainly impact you as a coach, and you learn. I was fortunate enough to play for some really great coaches, and, you learn a lot. And then you do have to put your own stamp on it because, everyone has a little bit different personality, and you guys stay true to who you are. Um, you know, Kids will see right through you if you're not. And I think that, that foundation from the coaches I had as an athlete certainly, give you that initial blueprint to get started. And that's really valuable.
You look at that banner that hangs at the gym in Fayetteville with the state championships for volleyball, and you're responsible for a lot of them. When you won that first state title, do you remember what that felt like? And then how, when you win, then you build that winning culture, are they all exciting? Are they all just because of how special each year is, to be able to continue to have that high level success and win state championships for Fayetteville?
Yeah. I mean, they're all special. Even the years you don't end up with, hanging that banner, those are just as special because it's really at the end of the day about the striving to reach this goal and the lessons those kids learn along the way. I think of that first state championship, that was 2012, and we had made it to the finals with that crew a couple of years, and it just felt like this was our unfinished business. That was the theme of that year, and they had a magnificent senior year, and they really were. And it wasn't just seniors on that team, but there was a kind of a core group of seniors that really just kind of led the way, and was really happy for those kids to finally be able to push through and win that first state championship. That was really cool for them. And and then the ones that followed, those moments are just like real magical, like when it all just comes together. But at the same time, I think a lot of the things you'll take away, there's other moments along the way, and with teams that finish second, or it's about reaching your potential, and the life lessons in victory and defeat. I think that it's an error to both ways, like to get too caught up in like the defeats or the successes, and you're just kind of like, what is it really about? And I think that we've had kids that have really bought into that it's about what can we do today, maybe to become a state champion. And you embrace that process, your coach is proud of you, whether the outcome's the first place trophy or the second place trophy or making it to the semifinals.
And you also had a lot of individuals who went on and did some good things too, playing at the next level on the collegiate level, being a Gatorade Player of the Year. How fun was it as a coach to see these girls individually, reach their potential and fulfill their dreams?
Yeah, I think of like how far volleyball in the state has come over the last. I came here in '95 as an athlete, and I think that a lot of the teams in our area weren't even teams. There's a lot of schools just adding the sport as the university added the sport, and then to see our part in like these players going on to push these boundaries of a kid from Arkansas going on to be a first team All-American. You look at LMA Powell, who's playing professional volleyball right now in a league in the United States. I mean, not just here in our little pocket of the world, but the sport has grown so much in popularity across the country, and for our kids to be recognized for those talents is really cool. As a coach, you're anytime you send a kid on to the next level, that's fun, especially ones that are so competitive and talented. And then that being said, I'm equally as proud of, I have girls now, that you've been doing this a while that are thriving in so many areas of life, whether it's, um, they're doctors or they're in government or they're, owning restaurants or whatever it is. I think that, to the small extent that you play a role in, their formative years, there's always a little bit of you that's going to be like, I'm real proud of that kid, look at them. So, yeah.
Yeah. When you look back, gosh, I it's so unfair to probably say like your favorite memory from your career,
Yeah.
but when you look back, kind of what are you gonna remember the most?
I think, those state championships are fun. Like you win one with your daughter. That's really cool. But I think that what you miss the most is, probably those 5 minutes when you walk in the gym, the beginning of seventh period, and those kids are like, it's before the volleyball starts. It's like where they're just excited to see each other. I think that to the extent that like they find their people, and those relationships you get to see at the start, and some of those extend well beyond high school, and they're in each other's weddings and that kind of thing. And so I think that those moments are like kind of the quiet moments along the way, but those are probably the ones that you'll miss the most.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's next for you as you kind of step into a new role and a new exciting chapter? What is it for you that's next?
Yeah. So I'm not retiring from education. I'm also a longtime teacher at Fayetteville High School. I've been teaching AP psychology and coaching. So I have enjoyed both aspects of that. I've as cool it is to send kids on to play college sports. I'm also like, I take some pride in like that kid that comes back and tells me like, I want to be a psychology major. I loved your class, that kind of thing. So I'm still going to be teaching next year. I actually am working on finishing my school counseling license. Before I was a teacher, I worked in rehabilitation counseling. So, I did that for 3 or 4 years before I got it back into coaching and teaching. And so, we're, kind of in that mode. I will still teach and coach and see what's next. I hope to, get to some of my own kids, a few more college matches. My daughter's playing her senior year at the University of Illinois, and my son, I'm repping him today because it's his first college match today at Southwest Baptist. And then my oldest son just got a job in St. Louis. So I feel like that little I-44 to Illinois corridor in my future too. So.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Where do you want to see the program continue to go? You talk about the foundation and the blueprint, and leaving it in good condition. Yeah. And so what do you hope is next for them as they find their new leader?
Yeah, I think that the program's really well positioned for continued success. The kids, the parents, the staff, and I'm going to support that transition. I told the kiddos I'm, still going to be at Fayetteville High. Like I'm still going to be your big supporter. And that being said, I hope that the new coach puts their own stamp on it. Like I said, you got to be true to yourself, and that's okay too. And I hope they do. And I, wish these kids, I'm going to feel, connected to their fall season. I'm still with them this spring and helping them, get ready. And so I'm moving from coach, but I'm certainly not moving from big supporter of the program and, that next person. So.
It was a pleasure to have her on our show, and I was blessed to become friends with Jessica when I got here in Fayetteville years and years ago through a mutual friend. And I'm really happy for her and excited to see what is next for her and her family.
It's a big blessing, and just got to keep on working and getting better.
Bentonville's Marley has helped the Tigers go this season on the court. Last week, he had 32 points in the Tigers' 4 overtime win against Rogers.
The whole scoring, and it's like, dang, we have to go play defense again. So go down there, lock up, and just keep it going.
And in their loss to Bentonville West, he had 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 block. The junior is averaging 19.7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals per game this season. Congratulations to Marley, our Lindsay Boys Athlete of the Week, #1 in apartments, golf, and real estate. Well, that is going to do it for Varsity Vibe today on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, I encourage you to follow us along on our social media platforms. That is Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook, as well as subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And while you're at it, sign up for the newsletter at varsityvibearkansas.com. That'll come to your inbox twice a week. A special thank you to our sponsors here at Varsity Vibe. We could not do this without them. So thank you so much for your support. I'll see you guys tomorrow.